Hello, namaste all. A big welcome to all of you. It is the goal of Pavitra to build a culture of wellness. So here we are. And thank you all for joining in. Just goes to show how invested all of you are in living a toxic free life on a toxic free planet. We are always torn between the convenience of an urban lifestyle and being responsible citizens. That chocolate wrapper, that plastic bottle, that aloo chips ka empty plastic packet, they all end up in a landfill just outside our city. And how does it even matter? Well, to answer that, we have with us someone who's going to talk about sustainable living. And what does it even mean to live sustainably? She's going to give us some tips on how to live a chemical free life and also share some amazing recipes on natural personal care products, which we can easily swap with our chemical laden ones. So it is my great honor to be introducing to you all Iris, our eminent guest of today. I'm sorry I'm not taking your last name because I don't know how to pronounce it. Iris has a master's degree in environment and sustainable development from UCL London. She's deeply interested in the transition towards more sustainable lifestyles, herbalism, and DIY products, do it yourself products. She has been working at the Govardhan Eco Village since 2018 as a sustainability specialist and a faculty member of the Govardhan School of Sustainability. She also conducts workshops and courses wherein she teaches how to make natural soaps, creams, incense, herbal extracts, etc. Wow. So big warm welcome to you, Iris, on this Pavitra platform. Thank you for joining us from GEV, and so looking forward to this session. Over to you.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, Sujata, for this beautiful introduction. My name is Iris, and I'm very happy to talk to you today about sustainability. And we are doing this for the event of the International Yoga Day. And if we think, what is the relationship between yoga and sustainability is, in my view, everything. I think there cannot be sustainability in the world without yoga, because yoga means union. It means aligning our minds with our soul, with our body. And thus it means also becoming more aware of all our actions, our thoughts. And this is precisely what is necessary for sustainability, to build sustainability. So when we hear a lot this concept these days, it has become super popular, super common, but it makes one wonder, what does exactly sustainability mean? What is
Become the
sustainability?
buzzword nowadays.
Yes, it is. And we have a general notion that it is about finding a harmony between the environment, the economy, and people. So having a preserved environment, using the resources in a way where there's not much depletion, having a thriving economy, and also having social justice, so a fair share of the resources. And it sounds very beautiful. However, this conceptualization of sustainability has been going on for many years already, around 40 years. This is when we started to talk about sustainability. And as you know, the situation only has gotten much worse. So it makes us wonder, is this view of sustainability working? What is actually happening and why is it not working? I think the main reason why we are not being successful with sustainability, which is basically sustaining ourselves and natures, and we are part of nature. So how can we sustain this in a harmonious way, human life and as well as the ecosystems and all? I think that something really key, which is missing, is the pillar of spirituality, or the pillar of culture even, but mainly spirituality, not in a religious way, but in terms of more awareness. And yoga is a spiritual path. It helps us with developing more awareness. So I think that sustainability cannot really exist without this deeper awakening of who we are and our life on the planet. Um, so it is a pillar that is now becoming more talked about. Still, the society is very rational and mechanistic and reductionist. It is precisely this model of society which we live now, which is so difficult to change, right? And I think that through yoga, even if people are first searching yoga for, to solve this or that health problem, if they're interested in having more of a natural life, it actually leads to many, many benefits, not just for ourselves, but also for the environment. Because once you become more aware of your habits, of your attitudes, you start also making better choices. And I think that it is all about lifestyle choices, right? The situation today, just to give you a little picture of what is the situation in terms of the environmental crisis, it is very severe. In fact, more severe than usually it is portrayed to us. So we are, for example, to talk about biodiversity. Just some days ago, it was the International Biodiversity Day as declared by the United Nations. And we are right now going through the 6th mass extinction of species on the planet. So 6th mass extinction of species of insects, plants, mammals. And every day, in average, we are losing 200 species. So it is an extremely severe situation, which is not really treated as an emergency, right? And how is this connected to our lifestyle? Well, it is connected to the model of society in which we are living now, which is the industrial growth society. We are built on growing an economy without any limit, really. So usually this is the main objectives of all the countries, is to thrive as an economy, this idea of infinite growth. But we have already realized, and that's already some decades ago, when the whole environmental discussion started, that it is not possible to grow economically, without any limits on a planet with finite resources. So right now, to sustain our lifestyle, which is materially very abundant, so to say, we are very used to consuming products from all over the world. This has become so normal, right? If you want something from the other side of the planet, you can just order it on Amazon. It will be by your door in some days. But we don't really realize what is actually behind all this logistic. And it is a very complex logistic. So if we think about the things that we consume, it is usually a linear process, right? So for example, if we talk about a shampoo, because we're going to talk a little bit about natural self-care and our own personal and hygiene products. So if you talk about a shampoo, a commercial one that you find in the supermarkets. So first, the chemicals are all either, processed from some other raw materials from nature, including petroleum, which they have a lot these days. So they are manufactured in chemical industries. And then the packaging, which is made of plastic, which is made of petroleum, is also manufactured in industries. And all that has already the carbon footprint or the ecological footprint of the extraction of the petroleum, which causes a lot of harm environmentally. It's a very impactful process. So the raw material is transferred to these industries where it is processed, then it is packaged, and then it is transported to a distributor, and then it is transported again to a shop. And then we go there in the shop, we buy that, we transport ourselves to our home, we use it, and we dispose it. So if you think about the process, it is linear, we extracted something from nature, it goes through several steps, and then we dispose it, and most likely it will go to a landfill. In India, 50% of the waste goes to landfills. We produce around 62 million tons of waste a year. So half of that goes to landfills. And I think around 11 million tons a year are actually not collected and treated at all. It's just disposed. So lots of pollution is coming there. And so if we think about this linear process, there's pollution.
Sorry to interfere, but does it all end up in our waterways?
If we talk about industries, 70% of the pollution of waters is coming from industries. So the way we consume products is polluting. It's polluting when we extract the resources, when we manufacture them, when we consume it, we pollute our bodies because we are using, chemical preservatives and synthetic compounds like fragrances and so on. So we pollute our body and then we throw it away and we pollute again the environment. So where's the awareness in this process? Very little, isn't it? Not much consciousness of where things actually come from, where things go to. So we remain, in our little bubble of everyday life without regarding actually the consequences of our action. So I think the practice of yoga is also related to becoming aware of what exactly we are consuming, where do things come from and where do things go to? And why is yoga also so important to sustainability? Because sustainability is also a lot about having a simpler lifestyle. So if we talk about climate change and what is the scenario now, on 2016, there was the Paris Agreement, which was an international, very ambitious agreement signed by many nations. And this document was a very in-depth research done by, I think, over 100 of scientists. So there was a huge study. And what was concluded there is that to avoid the average temperature of the Earth to go above 2 degrees, which is what is considered already very dangerous, but what is the maximum which we could, so to say, warm the average temperature. So to hold global warming by 2 degrees, we have to cut our emissions as nations by 50% in 10 years. So we have to cut our emissions by half until 2030. And we have to become zero net, so zero carbon emissions by 2050. This is if we want to be sustainable as a civilization, meaning if we want to actually survive, because climate change, as you know, it is about severe weather events, cyclones, droughts, floods. The weather basically regulates everything on the planet, isn't it? So food availability, the seasons, patterns of rains, everything is related to this, this rhythm and the stability of the climate. If there's global warming and if it starts to become more unpredictable and extreme, it affects everything in our lives. So what was determined in the Paris Agreement is that we have to stop global warming, we have to cut by half our emissions in 10 years. But where is this in the news, isn't it? We are so little educated about this. In the schools, we may touch upon the subject, but not to the extent in which we actually should, right? So I think it brings a sense of self-responsibility. I think if we are to have a chance, we all need to do something about it. There is this macro level scale happening, of these very complex problems and climate change and global pollution and everything. But it is also connected to our own lives, to the micro scale of it, right? Because after all, we are society, we are part of the system. The system exists because we actually sustain it with our own actions. So by buying things, right? By not questioning things and everything. So it all comes back to our own perception of it, our own consciousness and awareness. And there is a phrase which I really like from a systems thinking theorist. His name was Freithof Capra. And he says that all the environmental problems, they are actually just facets of one single crisis. And it is a crisis of perception. And what he means here is the crisis of not realizing that we are part of nature. We are one with nature. However, we forgot it in this couple of last decades because we are in this materialistic, consumeristic mode of life, which is very predominant now. I mean, of course, there are other models of society and also indigenous communities and all, but we can say that pretty much in the whole world now, the industrial growth model is the dominating one. And it is coming all from a crisis of perception. So how can we become more mindful about our everyday actions? So it is very overwhelming to think, you know, okay, there's this big problem. Where do I start, right? And I think if we remember the 5 R's, and this is something that we usually learn in schools or we hear about, it is the, you know, refuse, reduce, recycle, repurpose, and rot. So these are the 5 R's, and there are many varieties of them, right? But I think from these, the most important one is to refuse. Is to just refuse to consume all these needless things, really, because we are not really aware of the impact of the things we are consuming. The impact is not just when we throw the waste and it goes to a landfill and pollutes. The impact is already when the raw resource is extracted to produce this product and all the packaging and everything. So it's a whole chain in a complex system. So once we start to become aware of, okay, what actually do I consume? What do I buy with my money? Where do I invest my energy? This is like a vote. I think every time you shop, it's like a vote. And you are voting for either maintaining things as they are, you know, when we shop without regarding, you know, if there's synthetic compounds in the product, or if it's just a tiny bottle, which means in 2 weeks you have to buy another one, and then you will be producing more plastic waste and so on. All of this is like a vote, you know. And if you start rethinking your choices, you're also voting for a different type of society. Now we have this 10 years. This is our window of opportunity to reconsider, rethink. And in this way, I think that the coronavirus and the pandemic is actually such a great opportunity for us to rethink, because most of us are anyway, you know, locked at home. So we are starting to realize that actually we don't need that much. You know, we don't need to buy new clothes every now and then. We don't need to have such a big variety of food. And it's like deconstructing, you know, all our needs. And it is all about the things that we think we need. But what exactly do we need? Is it something, do we need, you know, different types of clothes and better houses and better cars and, you know, more material comfort? Or are we actually looking for self-acceptance and joy and connection and, you know, self-assurance? Because I think usually this anxiety of when, if you feel like shopping, you know, and buying stuff, it usually means that we actually want to feel better about ourselves. And you may get the same pleasure of shopping if you just, you know, talk to a dear friend of yours, human connection, you know, and feeling good about ourselves and practicing yoga and meditation and all these mindfulness practices that will change the way you feel. So when we talk about refusing, there is a nice idea, which is if you want to buy something, wait 30 days and rethink about it. And then this impulse is not there anymore. And then you can know with more lucidity, or, in a more sober way, let's say, if you really need that new gadget, that new electronic, that new clothes or whatever, or if it's just the impulse there. Because it's so seductive, right? We have advertisements and we see the improvement of technology and everything. But anyway, I think that refusing is such an important step if we want to change our lives to in a way that helps a little bit with tackling climate change and to transition to a more sustainable lifestyle. And then also going local. I think this is very key to really see what is in your immediate surrounding. So in terms of food production, so I know this is difficult for those living in big cities like Mumbai, for example. Still, we can try to prioritize buying organic vegetables or buying from local farmers, because you are avoiding then all this transport, which is emitting all the greenhouse gases, which is causing climate change. So going local has a huge effect, a positive effect. Also because we are building resilience. When we talk about resilience, it means the capacity of a system to hold a shock. For example, if you think about the coral reef and there's a storm, let's say in the ocean, and the coral reef is affected or suffered a shock, it is a concept that comes from biology, that resilience is the capacity of this coral reef to regenerate itself afterwards. And when we talk about our societies, we are resilient when a crisis comes, like an economic crisis or some environmental disaster or whatever, and we can still go through it without collapsing. We can regenerate ourselves, we can stay strong. And what makes us strong? It is community, it is being local. If you have a strong community with your neighbors, if you grow some food, if your own neighbors grow some food, and if there is some crisis like that, you will for sure go through it in a better way. If you harvest your own water, and these are skills that will become more and more necessary with time. I mean, now just some days ago, we had a super unusual cyclone in Mumbai, isn't it? So these events are going to happen with more frequency. So going local, refusing, and also reducing the things that we need. This is, of course, very similar to refusing. So reducing international travels and prioritizing also experiences over material things, So, for example, if it's someone's birthday, instead of buying a gift, which is something that you buy and the person will maybe use it and then throw it away and so on, maybe you can give as a present an experience to the person, a dinner or something, So valuing quality of life over quantity of stuff. And also regarding the things that we wear and the things that we use, for example, electronic gadgets and clothes, it is also much better to have less things, but high quality that will last for a long time, but just a couple of them, instead of having a lot of things that you don't really use, and then you keep buying more to, look for better options. So it is better to have high quality stuff, but less of them, so that you avoid all the impact of all these things that we buy because of this chain of impact that they have. And then, of course, we also have reusing. So if something breaks, why not fix it, right? We can search for help. Today, there's so much information on the internet where we can learn how to fix broken items instead of buying new things. And recycling then is also there as part of the 5 Rs. And I know it's not easy to recycle because we don't always have the recycling companies, that will collect the waste and process it. Many cities don't have enough of these. But in big cities, I think that it is, let's say, the minimum that we can do as ecological citizens to separate our waste into dry waste and wet waste and separate it nicely, you know. So if you have a plastic packaging made of, you know, for food, wash it nicely, dry it nicely, keep it, you know, keep it ready for the recycling company, because they will then need much less water and energy to clean up your waste,
I
right?
just want to add something
Yes,
here, Iris. I
yes,
mean,
please.
you know, the milk packets, so it's a
Yeah.
challenge for them to recycle them because they are not cleaned. So, you know, there are some agencies who do it. Like if you clean them and you inform them and they come and collect it. So I just wanted to tell the
Yes.
viewers so that there is an option available, but all you have to do is clean it from inside, wash it, and
Yes. Because the problem with waste is when we mix, you know, food stuff with plastic and paper, and then they cannot recycle it anymore. And then it all goes to the landfill. So it is about taking responsibility for our own waste. And sometimes they come with mixed materials, you know, like some milk boxes, they can come with aluminum and plastic and paper. And oh my God, for the recycling companies, this is a hell, you know, because they have to separate each thing. So the ideal would be that we separate it, you know, or for example, whenever there is a package that has mixed material, just tear the parts, just tear it apart, you know, and you will be doing such a great favor already for the recycling company to process it. And it basically means taking responsibility for our own impact, because we're so used to, you know, we can look at a beautiful landscape and then become sad because it is polluted and so much waste on the ground. But what are we doing about our own waste, right? It's so easy to point fingers, but actually, what is the impact of our own life? You know, regarding everything, climate change, pollution, and so on. So it is just about facing this reality. And it's okay, you know, it's about time that we mature, that we become adults regarding this, right? And not just like children who say, you know, oh no, I don't want us to do this boring stuff. But it is more than necessary that we wake up to all these things. And then just to finish the 5 R's, rot is also very important. And why rot? Because when we separate waste between dry and wet, the wet waste can actually, if you compost it in your home, and it doesn't matter if you have a garden, it doesn't matter if you live in an apartment, there are different types of composting. You create soil. And soil, that is the biggest richness of the planet. It's the treasure. It's good soil. If you have good soil, you can produce good food. And this is the main thing of our societies, of our civilization. Everything is around food. I mean, even if you see the waste packages, most of your waste is food package, right? So if you have soil, you can produce food, and then you become more resilient, you are healthier because you're growing organic vegetables. You can share your abundance with your neighbors. If you start growing some tomato plants, you will see how much tomato one plant will give you. And then you can share this beautiful organic tomato with your neighbors, all done with your kitchen waste. So it's very, you know, small steps, but they create such a positive impact on our lives and the people around us. So rot, it's also a very important principle that we start also transforming our waste.
so you
So,
can't put the wet waste in a garbage liner, the plastic liner, right? You can't line it with that.
so to compost your waste, there is a proper system. There should be a good balance between carbon and nitrogen. So whenever you have wet waste, there should be always a proportion of dry waste. So leaves, paper, because there shouldn't be smell. And there's so many ways of doing your own home compost system. You can just look in the web, you know, there's one for every taste. But basically a very easy way is to take 3 buckets and you make holes on the bottom so that the liquid goes to the bottom. And then you have different phases for the compost, you know. So you just look online, you can buy them ready, you can make them yourself. It's very easy to make your own compost pit. If you have a garden, then you can, it is even easier. You can have also your own worms and they will produce a very beautiful vermicompost. So this is out there, this information. It's just about doing it. And for those who have children, this is such a fun activity, you know, to make your own compost boxes and to talk a little bit about the importance of soil, the importance of worms. So it is already all over there, all available to us. It's just about taking action, really. And I think it is a lot about food consciousness, you know, that we really start to, even if you have a tiny place in your balcony or some sun coming in your window, just starting to, you know, the pleasure of gardening, of growing your own herbs, your own little, let's say aubergine plant or something, or your own cucumber, you will see what a pleasure it is. And it is so positive, affecting, you know, the tackling climate change and so on. So it's about a transition. It's very difficult to become very quickly 100% eco, you know? It's a transition that we have to make step by step, because the system or the society tells us everything the opposite, right? We are told to dispose quickly, to buy in the supermarket or the shops. It's like we have to relearn everything, but the information is out there. It's all about just taking the action. So today I wanted also to talk a little bit about some easy recipes that we can do ourselves at home to replace some of the products, especially cleaning products, because they have many chemical compounds that are very polluting. If you see, especially everything that makes foam, so detergents, laundry powders, even some surface cleaners, they have, for example, SLS, which is a synthetic foam agent, because we like foam, isn't it? Even in our toothpaste, usually there is this sodium lauryl sulfate, which is this synthetic foam agent, and it is not that biodegradable. So when it accumulates in the water bodies, and it also has some very dangerous chemical compounds, like 1.4 dioxane, which is harmful to the environment. And today, because everybody uses them, I mean, how many people use toothpaste in the world? It's a lot, right? So this accumulates, and then it starts to affect the marine life and so on, because the quantity is so much. So there are many products that we can do ourselves to avoid all these commercial ones. And this is better for your own health. And this is better for nature, because you are reducing your waste, and you're reducing also your chemical pollution, which is not just when you throw it out, but also you are, you know, if you buy one less, it's one less also produced in the future, because you're reducing demand. So that is a little the logic. So to talk about home cleaning, there is a full course that I recorded for those of you who are more interested in this. You can find it on the online platform of Governance Eco Village. I can give you later the address. But I will give you now a recipe for a surface cleaner, which is so effective. I will show you how I do it. So I have this bottle, and I keep using it again and again and again. And this is the surface cleaner made with vinegar. It's basically 1 part white vinegar and 1 part water. And that is all. And with this here, you can already clean your floor or surfaces. This also acts as a mild disinfectant, and it will cut the grease. So instead of using detergent, which is synthetic, or the synthetic multi-purpose sprays, you can just use vinegar with water. And you will see that it is as effective, and it is eco-friendly, right? And the package, you just keep reusing it. So this is good for cutting the grease, for removing mold also, or you can use vinegar to remove water stains, hard water stains. And really there are hundreds of uses for vinegar. So this is one I use a lot. And
Does it
then
have
I
a
have,
shelf life?
sorry?
So when you mix it with water, does it have a limited shelf life, or you can just
And no, this one, it will last you a long time. I would say because it's vinegar. Vinegar is very acidic, so it prevents bacteria from growing. So you don't need to keep it on the fridge. It will last 6 months. It will last until you finish the bottle, right? Because if you start using it, I think you use a bottle like this in 1 month, let's say, if you have a family home.
so as a floor
So
cleaner, it could be used as a floor cleaner as well?
also, you can use as a floor cleaner. So dilute vinegar with water, 1 part vinegar, 1 part water, and that should be enough, especially if you have ceramic floors. Another recipe, I have another multi-purpose spray here. So I call this number 1, which is with soap, and this number 2, which is with vinegar. So the soap one, it's slightly more basic, slightly more alkaline, and the vinegar one is more acidic. The soap one is also a very simple recipe. It's 2 cups of warm water, then 2 tablespoons of liquid soap that is natural. So you can use Castle soap, which is only olive oil, or grated coconut soap, because it's pure oil soap. It's not like a synthetic soap from the shop. So 2 cups of warm water, 2 tablespoons of grated natural soap, and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. You mix it all, and then you have this surface cleaner, which is good for removing dirt. So if you have, strong dirt in the floor or in the surface, I use this one here. So to clean the floor, doesn't matter really if it is wood or ceramic or tiles, I first spray the soap to remove the dirt. And then later I spray the vinegar. If you look on the internet, you'll find that many recipes mix them already together.
Combine the baking soda and the vinegar.
Yeah, but that doesn't work because soap is slightly alkaline. The pH is basic. It's low pH. It's high pH. And vinegar is acidic. It's low pH. If you mix them two, they cancel each other. And it's a very fun experiment to do at home. Also, if you have kids, you can combine liquid soap with vinegar and you will see what happens. The soap becomes oil again. So it becomes a very strange
emulsion.
Yeah, it kind of curdles and then the soap becomes oil again. So there's a chemical reaction that doesn't work. But you see many recipes in the internet that combine vinegar with baking soda and they say, oh, such a great natural cleaner. But when you combine vinegar with baking soda, you generate water and salt. So you are cleaning your house with water and salt. And that also works a little bit, but it is way more effective if you use first vinegar and then baking soda. So I will show you here a little bit of baking soda that I have. This is sodium carbonate.
Yeah. Sodium bicarbonate, yeah. And where would the natural soaps be available?
Yes, you can also do your natural soaps. In the beginning, it is a little bit of an intimidating process because to make soap, you need to use caustic soda. It is in every soap. It is part of the saponification process. But it is a simple process once you really understand how it works. And it's basically mixing caustic soda, water, and oils. And but you have to do a course in order to do it first time because it's, you need to know the steps and everything. For those interested in learning that, there's also a natural soap making course available on the Govardhan Eco Village online platform for courses. So you can also find it there. I think the website is online.ecovillage.org.ing. And once you make your own soap, it becomes very easy then to reduce your waste and all your consumption of products. Because if you have a natural soap, number one, you will not need any moisturizer or creams because natural soaps, they are already hydrating and moisturizing because they retain the glycerin. part of the chemical reaction when you make soap is that you have a little bit of pure glycerin, which is generated in the process. And glycerin is very hydrating to the skin. But because it's such a valuable byproduct, usually what the industry does is that when they produce soap, they take out the glycerin and sell it apart because it's a valuable, costly material. So in shop soaps, usually there is no glycerin. This is why when you use a handmade soap made with good oils, you see what a difference it is. You know, the skin is very much more hydrated. And then if you make pure coconut soap, you can make all the cleaning products. So in this natural home cleaning course I gave, many of the recipes are using coconut oil soap, which has a great cleaning agent power. So it's all about doing more, doing the products ourselves. You know, the more we make ourselves the products, the more sustainable will be our lifestyle. And if you think about it, our ancestors, you know, those who came before us, they always did everything themselves, right? Before there was not so much globalization and so much exchange of, you know, of global trade and products. So life before the industrial growth, you know, let's say the couple of decades, was much more sustainable. So it is also a great thing to just ask our grandmas, how did they do it? You know, how did you wash your hair? How did you do laundry? How did you clean the house and so on? And we will have so many valuable tips. And not just that, in every sense, you know, you see that before there wasn't so many plastic bags around and so much waste. So I think now it's the time to look back. How did our ancestors do it? And we will find lots of pearls of wisdom, really, you know, to how to live a sustainable lifestyle. Also beforehand, they wouldn't waste things so easily. So, for example, if you are taking a vegetable, usually the peels would also be used. You know, my grandmother, she would always use watermelon peels and make a food, either salty food from that or a sweet or a jam. Everything was used. Nothing is waste because it wasn't so easy to shop and buy things, you know. So I think that there's a lot of wisdom that we can look for in how people used to live before. And in fact, I want to share something with you about peels. I am someone who's always excited about using peels for different things. So if we talk about facial cleansing or hydrating the face, you know, there are so many products that we can buy and choose from, isn't it? You have facial toner, you have facial soap, facial mask, creams, and so on. But actually something which is really good for our face is peels. So I have here a potato. Potatoes have a lot of vitamin C, and vitamin C helps the skin to produce collagen, which is one of the main components of the skin. The skin is 75% collagen. So it also has some copper, some potassium, which it reduces the pore sizes of the skin. So a great skin treatment is just to take a peel of potato. So just when you're peeling your potato, you take a peel and then you can already smear it on your face like that, you know? And because the potatoes, they have some starch, they actually leave a dry feeling, you know? Yeah. So once you apply it, you'll feel it's a little bit wet because of the juice of the potato. But in about 5 minutes, it will dry and you don't need to wash it afterwards. It will leave you with a very soft skin. It will hydrate you and also give some vitamin C to the skin. Because after all, we should not put on the skin something that we would not eat, because the skin absorbs 60% of what we put on it. So if you imagine all these synthetic preservatives and all these compounds, they are being absorbed on the body. So fruit peels and vegetable peels are already a great thing to use. Mango peels have a lot of collagen themselves, so they are very good, and they have vitamin E, which is antioxidant. Apple peels are also very good. Cucumbers. I mean, we always see these spa pictures with people with cucumber slices on their face. This actually has an effect. It reduces the swollen eyes and dark circles. So there's a lot to do with the peels. And also something that I wanted to show you today is how to make vinegar, because vinegar has so many uses and it's so easy to make. So usually it's nice to make vinegar with apples, to make apple cider vinegar, which if you research, you will see how many benefits are there for it. But I don't have apples with me right now because of the lockdown. It's very difficult to get them. So I will improvise using the potato itself that I just cut.
So the
So
vinegar
to
that
make
you had,
vinegar,
sorry, Iris, the vinegar that you had
yes,
used in the cleaning solution, was it an apple cider vinegar, or can you use apple cider vinegar in that? Or?
yes, you can use apple cider.
Okay.
I tend to use white vinegar because it has a nice cleaning power. And it's also cheaper because it's funny as it sounds, apple cider vinegar is actually quite expensive, isn't it? But if you make your own, you'll see how simple it is. So you can use it for cleaning your home, and you can also use it as a facial toner, white toner, because if you take a little bottle, oh, I don't have any bottle here with me, a small bottle, and also 1 part apple cider vinegar and 1 part water, this becomes a facial toner. And if you spray it on your face and then you wash it off, it will balance the pH of your skin. Our facial skin has the pH of 4.5 approximately. And if you keep a healthy pH, the skin will be rejuvenating itself better. It will become more elastic. It will become stronger. And this toner will also clean your skin. So you can use that on your face. You can use it also in your hair. Apple cider vinegar is also a hair conditioner, and it gives a lot of shine. Also because the hair has a slight, it likes more acidic pH. So you can see that if you apply this diluted apple cider vinegar, it will give shine, it will condition, and with time you can even replace your hair conditioner with it. And you can use it also as a laundry softener. So these laundry softeners are used that make this clothes smell very good, right? And soften it and all. You can just put 2 tablespoons of vinegar. It will have the same effect. It will just not leave this fragrant smell afterwards, but you will not be polluting. So I will show you now how to make apple cider vinegar. So take a small glass jar, and then you just fill it with apple peels. And I would just cut this potato here, pretending it is an apple. But you can use any scrape of apples, also the cores. It doesn't really matter. So let's pretend that these are lots of apple peels and cores. If you want, you can use an apple directly. And then you take the same measure of the glass jar of water. So here, for example, it would be 1 cup of water. And you add 1 tablespoon of sugar. You dilute it in the water. And then you cover the apple peels with the water until it is completely covered. It is good to not leave the apple peels above the water level. So to do that, you can, if, for example, I have here a tiny glass pot, you can put it here and press it, you know? And then you cover it with a cloth, let it breathe. Because once it is breathing, the good bacteria will start to grow. It is just important to keep the peels below the water level so that you would avoid the bad bacteria, which would be mold. So you just press it down and you wrap it with some cloth, so it will be breathing. So this here, you leave for 2 days, just in your kitchen, in a corner somewhere, just avoid direct sunlight. And then after 2 days, you will filter it. You remove the peels and you put the juice, the fermented juice which started, already back into the bottle, just without the apple peels. And then you cover it with a cloth again, and you can leave it for 3 weeks breathing, and you just forget about it. After 3 weeks, you will have a perfect apple cider vinegar. So it is that simple. It's just fermentation, really. And it's today like a bottle of 250 ml of apple cider vinegar. You find it for, I don't know, it's even 300 rupees. It's so expensive. And it's all that. It's just rotting peels in water with sugar.
Yeah.
So you can ferment any sweet fruit. You can ferment, you can make mango vinegar. We made here the other day cashew vinegar. It was super nice. Any fruit which has a lot of sugar, you can use. So it is so simple. It's just about learning how to do things ourselves. And, probably our ancestors already knew how to ferment things and how to use them. So this is about the vinegar. Oops. And then I wanted to show you one more recipe. We have 5 more minutes, which I find very helpful today, which is a deodorant recipe. Many people ask, okay, but what about deodorant? Do you have any ideas? And I have 2 suggestions, which are very effective. And I think deodorants are a very specific case because, so if we use synthetic shampoos and soaps and toothpastes, we wash them off, isn't it? But deodorants, we apply them and it stays. And what makes a commercial deodorant effective, it's lots of synthetic chemicals, for example, aluminium and so on, which are bioaccumulative. And preservatives, which are also a little bit fishy, for example, parabens. So there was a interesting study done by the Breast Cancer Institute, where they analyzed breast cancer tumors. And in 90% of the breast cancer tumors, they found parabens, which are the preservatives used in cosmetics. So it is not just about, reducing pollution and so on. It's about our own health. So I think it's very important to use natural deodorants because after all, it will be absorbed in the body. So one recipe is just using milk of magnesium. It's used for acidity in the stomach and heartburn and so on. So milk of magnesium is very alkaline. So that on its own is super effective. And you can put it in a roll-on bottle even, or a spray bottle and just apply it. Or one recipe which I like a lot is here. This is a cream. I don't know if you can see the texture, but it is a very nice creamy texture.
Yeah.
And this one is very effective and it smells great also because it has essential oils. So the recipe for this one is 20 grams of coconut oil. I think it would be around 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. But if you have a scale, that is even better. That is 20 grams. And then 15 grams of baking soda, which is very alkaline. And 15 grams of corn flour, of starch. And this will give the nice creamy texture. So you just mix them all in a water bath. They will melt together. The coconut oil will mix with the starch and the baking soda. And then this is already your creamy deodorant. If you want to add some smell to make it like a perfume, a natural fragrant product, you can add some essential oils. So in this recipe here, I use 12 drops of lavender essential oil, which is calming, it's antiseptic, so, and it has a great smell as well. And 12 drops of tea tree essential oil, which is also antiseptic, antifungal, and it will kill the bacteria. So this is very effective. It lasts for the whole day. And most people who start making their own natural deodorant, they become so sensitive to, synthetic fragrances, and you cannot buy then the product in a shop anymore. So like this, we usually can do most of the things that we use. So if you don't have time, maybe you know someone who makes them. This is also great, you know, supporting local brands and so on, handmade brands. And there's so much to talk about in this topic, but for those of you who are interested in making self-care products, soaps, natural home cleaning products, you can check the online courses, because then you have the full manual with recipes and step-by-step and so on. You don't add water here, someone asked. No, you don't add water, and this is why it will preserve for a long time. If you live in a very hot place, you can add a little bit of beeswax, 4 grams only, and then it will keep it nicely solid. But usually the cornstarch together with the coconut oil and the baking soda will already make it a nice cream.
Okay, there's a question, 12 drops of lavender and 12 drops of?
Tea tree.
Tea tree oil.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat the recipe for them?
Yeah, I would just add it in the chat. So it's 20 grams of coconut oil, 15 grams of cornstarch, 15 grams of baking soda. If you want a little bit of beeswax, so that would be 4 grams of beeswax.
That's optional, right?
That is optional. 12 drops of lavender. But it has to be the essential oil, not the fragrance, because when we see an essence are synthetic. So essence is not natural. It should be pure essential oil. There you go. And for the full courses on more products and so on, it is this website here. So you can check there. We have a lot of recipes available in the internet, but it is important that we experiment with them, see what works for our skin type and so on. But that is the first step to make a transition to a more sustainable lifestyle, which is very much needed today.
And you know, somebody's asking to repeat both the recipes. What you can do is just revisit this session on YouTube. It'll be uploaded. Yeah, so you can do that. Yeah, I think so. We are done, Iris, with all your recipes.
Yes, this is what I wanted to show today. So I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I mean, it was such a revelatory session, such an informative session. And this is the information that we need right now. I mean, now more than ever. And you've inspired and empowered us enough to at least start making gradual changes. I mean, we all have a little lab in our kitchen, and I'm sure it'll be more economically viable too.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, so let's all just start making conscious and sustainable choices. Absolute need of the hour, absolute need of the hour. It's not an option anymore. So many old paradigms are collapsing and new ones are emerging. So let's make sustainability one of the new paradigms, one of the new emerging paradigms. So just want to leave you all with a thought that never assume that you don't have a choice. Let 2020 be the year where we focus on things that make a difference, that truly matter. So yeah, on that, and let's reboot Mother Earth together. And thank you so much, Iris. Thank you for gracing Pavitra. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And namaste to all.
Namaste.